Alan Dershowitz. Professor, it's good to have you. And to remind everybody else, not you, of course, there is the criminal investigation, the FBI folio of their reports and what they did and did not do. Okay. Separate and apart from that, there are civil suits that had depositions, which are the interviews that you have in those pre-trial examinations before trial. And there are things that were sealed by judges. And what you told me, I have followed up on with other sources. And to the extent that there is any grouping of 20 people that survivors kept telling authorities about, who knew, who they were trafficked to, who had to be acted upon and never were, apparently, that's where those names would be sealed. Do you believe that? And if so, is there anything that can be done about that?
Yeah, we could go to the courts and seek to unseal it. But I want to focus on your prior guest because she focused on a woman named Farmer. Now, Farmer accused lots of people. All of them were Jewish. She said, quote, "I have a hard time with Jewish people. All the Jewish people I met are pedophiles who run the world economy." She talks about the Rothschilds. She is a blatant anti-Semite and a liar. She said she didn't accuse me, but she said she saw me in Jeffrey Epstein's house before I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. She clearly, provably lied about me. And so what we have is both sides of the coin. We have people who are truly abused and who are telling the truth, and they ought to be listened to, and we ought to punish anybody who did anything illegal and criminal. And then we have the Farmers of the world. We have another woman named Sarah Ransom who claimed she had videotapes of Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Richard Branson, and a bunch of other people, and Donald Trump, videotaped of them having sex with children. And then she admitted she made up the whole thing. So we have to not throw out the Constitution here. We have to remember the presumption of innocence. We have to remember that there are false accusations here. I was a victim of a false accusation. I was able to disprove the falsity of my accusation. But I worry that if names are released of people who are accused without there being information released, that might cast doubt on the credibility of the accusers, like this Farmer person, your lawyer who just presented. Her case never mentioned the fact that she said, "I have a hard time with Jews. All the Jewish people I met are pedophiles." Do you believe a person like that? It would take you 2 minutes to destroy her on cross-examination. She should not be believed. She is a liar. She lied about me. She lied about other people. And I think that that's why I want no redactions. I want all the evidence out so that the accusers tell their story and the people who are accused have the opportunity to disprove their story the way I did.
I hear you, but two things can be true at the same time, okay? I agree with you, and ironically, you agree with Ms. Freeman and Ms. Farmer that there should be no redactions on the files. Will that happen? I don't think there's any chance that it happens for multiple reasons, none of which is nefarious. Second, two things can be true at the same time, all right? Someone can be anti-Semitic, and Ms. Farmer denies that she feels that way or that she was going after Jews with her accusation. But whether it's true or not, she could have been abused and not like Jews, right? Both could happen, right?
Let me tell you what couldn't happen. She couldn't have seen me in Jeffrey Epstein's house walking up the steps months before I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. That is simply a false statement, and it could be proved categorically. I have all the evidence of when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
I understand.
I can give you the date and the time, and it was months after she left Jeffrey Epstein's employ and could never possibly have seen me. So all that evidence has to come out, and we want to see. I want to make sure we get the quotes, and then the people can decide for themselves whether a woman who says all the Jews I met are pedophiles who run the world economy, whether you believe her when she says she was abused. Maybe she's telling the truth. That's possible, but it goes to her credibility that all the people she accused are Jewish, and then she makes this statement about Jews. I have a trouble with the Jewish people. You know, that could come out of the protocols of the elders of Zion.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.